Okay, so today's video is going to be about block chords, and sometimes this is called locked hand style, and it was used by Wynton Kelly and George Shearing, Bill Evans, Kenny Barron, McCoy Tyner, Oscar Peterson, Monty Alexander. Just about all great jazz pianists have used this at one time or another, especially like if you're like taking a solo or just harmonizing the melody. You can do something that most other instruments can't do. You can harmonize it with chords. I mean, a guitar can do it, but a guitar cannot do it in this particular style because the notes are just too close together. So before I started this video, I read a chapter about block chords in this book, the Jazz Piano book by Mark Levine, and it's an excellent book. Some of his harmonic ideas in this chapter are pretty interesting. So I was looking to see specifically if he would use box voicings at all. And you know, he does use the box voicings back in the chapter on what he just calls left-handed voicings. But of course you could use them with either hand. So, but you know, they're most oftenly used with the left hand. And what I'm talking about is rootless voicings like this: D minor 7th, D minor 9th actually, G13, which is a G7th chord, and C major 7th, things like that. So the box voice would be this one right here. And this, can you use those when you're doing this locked hand style? Yes, you can, but first, let's go through it, what exactly it is. So it's based on 4-part close harmony, which means like if you're writing for 4 trumpets or 4 trombones or 4 of anything, and you want to use like 4-note jazz chords, you harmonize, say, a C major scale, like something like, play a C major 6th chord, and then a diminished chord, another C major 6th, another diminished C major 6th. Here we put a little passing tone in there so we could get that diminished chord in there again. And it's the same diminished chord every time, and that diminished chord is functioning as G7th. So you're like going C major, G7th, C major, G7th, C major, G7th, C major, G7th, C major. And when you do the locked hand style, you just double the melody here. Like this. See, the melody's going up like that, and then the 4-way close is in between. And so, okay, so, you know, we have major chords, we also have minor chords, and we can do the same thing with them. So we'll take C minor, and I'll go ahead and add the doubled melody down here. We do it basically the same way. Every other chord is a diminished chord, which infers the G7th chord, so it's kind of like that. Alright, so C minor 7th. I think this one is, yeah. Alright, and we had to put a couple passing tones in there to make it all work out right. Then also a minor 6 chord, because sometimes we like that A in there, so here we go. Still need that passing tone. Alright, and then he also does it, he demonstrates it, I'm talking about Mark here in his book, demonstrates the dominant 7th chord. Pretty much the same. But notice here, he's going to skip over the 13th there, the A, and go right to this one. And so many times, this is what got me wondering, so many times on the dominant 7th chord, we're going to have an A as the melody note. And, you know, you don't want to play this diminished chord. I guess you could, but I was looking for other approaches. And, of course, the way I hear most people do it, George Shearing especially, is to play one of these box voicings that I've been talking about. Like, for instance, this one for C13. And if we had like he was improvising and doing like G minor to C13, something like, alright, it'd be with locked hand style, it would be something like, let's see what it would be. And then right there, you could use the box 1, or you could use box 3 too. And George Shearing especially likes that box 3. I don't know if he thought of it that way, but that's what he plays, because you can move it around so easily like this. times he'll do something like. So that was all C7th, using different forms of the box 3 voicing. Okay, now if you don't understand box voicings, and these are voicings mostly that were developed as left-hand voicings on the piano, but you can certainly use them with either hand. Then that's the subject of some of my other videos. So I'm just going to assume that you know this chord as being C dominant 7th with a 13 on top, and we're going to use that when we're harmonizing things like, well, there I used box 3, but let me do it again. Alright, let's put the bass in there too. Of techniques in this style, like for instance, if you're doing D like that, say D minor, use the diminished chord. Another way you could do it is do a chromatic approach, like that, where everything's just chromatic, moving a half step. So you'd play D minor, C sharp minor to D minor. That's a good way of doing it too. And then there's like tritone substitutions and reharmonization ideas and things that you can do that way also. But I thought, since one of the primary uses of these box voicings is dominant 7th chords, not so much minor 7ths or major 7ths, but dominant 7th chords, either this way unaltered or this way altered, that these would be very useful in the locked hand style. And I think if you go back and listen to historical recordings, especially George Shearing, and Bill Evans too, you will hear this all the time. But I think thinking about the box chords, especially if you've already studied these along with me and you've learned how to do them, you'll find it very easy to incorporate it into this style.